the Overman Warrior Podcast.
Hi, Rich Hoffman here. So I'm serious when I say Vivek Ramaswamy running for governor in Ohio. He should go. I mean, it's one thing to talk about tax policies and talk about education and how to have a better economy. And people wear out on those issues. And those are the meat and potatoes of any campaign. But Amy Acton's going to go out, and even though she's a crazy lunatic, the lockdown lady who was responsible for destroying Ohio's economy, which it's never recovered from. She's going to go out and talk nice, and there's going to be a certain amount of suckers who are going to fall for it and not remember. They don't remember yesterday, let alone 6 years ago. So the Democrats have their playbook, and they try to kill you with niceness because they have nothing else. So, and Vivek Ramaswamy is very smart, and he talks about policies and tax issues and those kinds of things. And he can be intimidating. He's a wealthy, successful guy, and there's people who can't relate to him because he has a background of success. Not that I think that hurts him. I'm just saying people get bored during a campaign on that kind of stuff. And you got several months. It's April 2026. You got several more months till November of 2026. So what are you going to fill the time up with going to all these campaign stops and saying the same thing over and over again? So I think Vivek Ramaswamy should go and talk to the people who saw all the recent Bigfoot sightings. There's a lot of paranormal activity, and a lot of people believe in paranormal activity in Ohio, and it's kind of a liberal issue by default. Republicans are not comfortable talking about those things, so they kind of lose that engagement. Trump was always kind of wild and crazy on the kind of things he talks about. He talks about policy. He always talked about policy in his speeches. But remember, he would do the thing about the snake and go into some metaphors and tell stories about men and women's sports. And he'd get a laughing crowd, and he'd do the YMCA dance. He fluffs it up with some entertaining content. And there's plenty of things in Ohio to do to bring some entertainment to the news stories and really capture the narrative. And I think that the best thing Vivek Ramaswamy could do would be to talk about, go talk to the people who recently saw the Bigfoot sightings and talk to them about it. It would make good clips on TikTok and YouTube, and it's actually kind of a real thing. And it's not a bad thing I said the same thing about J.D. Vance and disclosure. Beat the Democrats to the punch, and don't let the new Spielberg movie capture the high ground on disclosure talk. Republicans should capture it and take it and run with it, and that includes Vivek Ramaswamy in Ohio and the Bigfoot sightings that occurred. You don't have to believe in Bigfoot, but I think showing a little attention to people who just recently were traumatized by it, and in that part of the world, the Youngstown area between Youngstown and Cleveland, and some of the rural areas there. Those are Amy Acton's voters, and it wouldn't be a bad idea to go there and listen to them tell their story about Bigfoot. Trust me, it'll work. It'll work great. But the meat and potato stuff we need to talk about, and I've heard some of the people who think this Casey, the car guy, is a good alternative in the primary for Vivek Ramaswamy, and I think that's absolutely lunacy. And then there's people who are listening to some of this racist framing to say that Vivek Ramaswamy isn't qualified to be governor because his parents came from India. I don't see that as relevant at all. I think it's that Nick Fuentes guy who's trying to be the next shock jock on the Republican side, and he's kind of finding himself drifting into Tucker Carlson territory, and they're both falling off the rocker, and they're losing their audiences. If they were hoping to drag MAGA to the left, or to what some people would say to the right, to the fascist movement, to Nazi party, the very openly racist views that you might find from that, well, they're all to the left, and including those who are anybody who's advocating, some kind of some kind of racist statement. That's not a conservative position. That's Hitler was a Nazi, and anybody who affiliates with that kind of sympathy is, they're on the left, the socialist parties, just different degrees of it. But they're out there chucking darts at Vivek Ramaswamy, and there's a lot of talk about him flip-flopping on his property tax initiatives and saying he said he was going to say he's going to abolish property tax, and then I can tell you, because I know a lot of them, they're like, none of us like the property tax idea. We all want to roll it back, get rid of it. We'd like to have less tax that funds all these big government programs. But the problem is, over time, people have become very addicted to those government programs. And if you just turn the faucet off, you're going to have mass chaos, particularly in the school systems. School systems are already up against it because they built their entire assumptions around perpetual funding that they never thought was going to go away. And I'm going to explain that in a minute. But before I get into all that, one of my very good friends, Senator George Lang, the majority whip at the State House in Ohio, gave me this very good book. I've read it. It's really good. It's Taxes Have Consequences, an income tax history of the United States. And really, since 1913, the income tax policies in America in general have been a devastating experiment. It had socialism, Marxism written all over it. And actually, this book, while Trump was in exile, he wrote the foreword to this. So this is essentially tax policies of the Trump administration. Once we get through some of the choppy waters we're in now, this is going to be really the next 3 years. And Vivek Ramaswamy is going to be part of that. And so when he's talking about property tax rollbacks, that's because he needs to bring some of the legislators on who know you can't just turn off property tax. Otherwise, everything will come to a grinding halt, and all the government programs that have been funded by property taxes are going to absolutely fall to pieces. And there's a lot of people who says, yes, that's what we want. We want to bring it all down. That's not a good way to get elected. That's probably 7 or 8% of the population who feels that way. And I'd probably inclined to feel that way. But I know that that's not practical. You're not going to bring a representative government that's elected by people who don't want to feel that kind of pain. You're not going to get it all done quickly. You can roll it back. You can keep grinding it down to nothing. You can gradually get everybody not addicted to those funding structures. But the truth of the matter is, like, taxes have consequences. They certainly do. And the point of this book is that they really harm your economy. They harm your social atmosphere, and really the tax policies since 1913 up to the present, just a little over 100 years, did not flourish. It was built on a pyramid scheme, and I'll explain that in a minute. So, property taxes. So you have a change in use in my community, Butler County, and this is the case all over Ohio. And this is why people are now talking about property taxes and want to get rid of them. And even though Vivek Ramaswamy, as governor, would love to just turn day one, hit a button and say no, just like Trump would like to do the same thing. Because, again, he forwarded this book. It's on his mind. It's on his mind. He would really like to roll back all these taxes. People are taxed way too much. And they do have consequences. And we're seeing those. We've seen them over time. But people were pretty okay with passing school levies and passing more taxes on the fire departments and the police departments and all the senior citizen services, and just people are giving when they have money in their pockets, and people believe they had money in their pockets as long as there was compounding value on their homes. So let's have a little history here. So in Butler County, Ohio, where I live, used to be a lot of farms, a lot of farmland. That farmland was valuable, and the farmer valued it and could do some work on the land, maybe raise some beans, maybe raise some cows, crops, just corn, whatever, hay, bale some hay. You could make money with that land if you were growing lots of stuff on it. But along came this kind of a pyramid scheme, and I have a lot of builder friends. Nothing against them, but they know how it is, and it was a good thing when it lasted, I guess. If you're finance and you want to, this is kind of the monetary theory that the Federal Reserve since 1913 has been doing, printing money. They went out, they bought that farmland. Developers did. They bought the farmland, they created a subdivision out of it, and then they sold each one of those homes for, $100,000 20 years ago. And every 5 or 6 years, that home would see itself compounding in value. Maybe 5, 6 years later, it was worth $150,000. Maybe 10 years later, it was worth $200,000. And then today, it's worth $300,000. So anyone who bought in at the $100,000 rate did pretty good. And now all of a sudden, you can sell it, and now you've got a bunch of money in the bank. And all along, you're paying your taxes, $1,500 a year, $2,000 a year, $5,000 a year. But after 20 years, you had someone come along, pay $300,000 for the house you bought it for $100,000. Your kids grew up, moved away. You sold it to some new family. They work 2 incomes trying to pay the $300,000 mortgage payment, and they might do it for a little bit. And now another 5 years go by, another 6, 7 years go by, and maybe that house is worth $360,000, maybe because of the $400,000. And they get a little bit of money off of it, and they sell it to somebody because they don't decide they want to have kids, or their kids grew up and become hated them because both of them were working all the time, and they become condo owners prematurely, or maybe they get divorced and separate because the pressure's too great, and they go to other spouses and then have other kids, stepkids, all kinds of things happen, and they sell the house, and then now you have another group of young people that come in to try and buy that same property now for $450,000, $500,000. I don't think so, and that's the brick wall we've hit. So the property use, the value has trumped out of its total value, and now you have another generation saying, you know what, I'm not going to go work my tail off to pay for a $500,000 house that's 40 years old. I'm not doing it. I might buy a brand new one, but then I still can't afford it, and it's not really worth the value that put into it because it was built with cheap materials. They built the houses too close together, and people grow tired of that lifestyle quickly. And now you've got a lot of homes that are topped out in value that people don't want to pay for, and you can't print enough money to throw money in people's pockets because they've hit a wall and they're not getting raises the way they used to. Inflation's robbed them of all their income, and now they're not supporting taxes anymore like they used to, and they don't want to pay for the school tax, and they don't want to pay for the police tax or the fire levy or the senior citizens levy. They're done. They don't have the money. They're going into this inflated mortgage, and now they don't make the kind of money they used to make because inflation's robbed the value of the dollar. Can't even buy anything with a penny anymore. So that's the kind of problem we're dealing with, and you can't just turn it off because you have an inflationary environment, and you can't just turn off property taxes because the whole state would collapse in the infrastructure that has made it work, and that's the maintaining the roads and the schools. They're not ready for an all-out divorce from state money or local money. That's just there's a lot of steps, so there's a long way to go, and a short time to get there, literally. And the tax discussions aren't going to go away. And again, my good friend, Senator George Lang, the Majority Whip, state of Ohio, gave me this book when I was up at his office to talk to him, and he gave it to me to read, and of course it was good. And I enjoyed it quite a lot because it puts in perspective tax policies of the Trump administration and of the oncoming Vivek Ramaswamy administration. And yeah, he can go out and do a lot of talk about it, and he certainly will, but you're going to have to sprinkle in some fun little things like Bigfoot sightings and paranormal occurrences, and tie it to the disclosure that J.D. Vance is going to be a part of. You got to lighten it up because this stuff's pretty heavy, and people aren't in the mood to pay these taxes anymore. They're sick of government the size it is. They haven't received anything good from it, and they're ready to blow it all up. And that's what Republicans in the House and Senate know. And the governor, any governor who's there, knows that that's going to be a thing. And you're going to have a wind down period. You can't just turn it off. And I know that's the case. I mean, I like that. But if you're going to win popular elections, you got to get everybody on board to come your way. And a lot of people just aren't there. There's not enough of those I just blow it up people to just turn the machine off and throw away the key. There's a lot of people that want their cake and they want to eat it too. And you're going to have to wind it down and get a plan and work it month by month because it's going to be quite a challenge. But yes, taxes have consequences, and Ohio's right in the thick of it. And Vivek Ramaswamy has the best tax policies and the ability to roll them back of anybody in the United States right now. I know the members of the representatives and the Senate are all on board, but they know they have to wind it down. You can't just turn it off, and that's going to take a lot of hard work, a lot of debate, and a lot of guts. And I would suggest a few Bigfoot interviews to help the pill go down a little bit, because there's a lot of hard talks here, and you're gonna have to lighten it up with some fun stuff. Otherwise, you come out sounded stale and talking about things that people would rather forget, and that's going to be an ongoing problem for several decades now, because the runway has ran out on the endless tax and spend policies that government has used, especially Democrats, and attaching all that big spending to property taxes has now hit the wall, and there's no coming back. There's the only way you can fix it is people either have to make more money, you have to get rid of the inflation. Gold standard would be a good place to start on that. Somehow increase the value of their homes. So I don't see that happening, because home's a home, and it's only going to reach the value that people are willing to pay for it. And if they don't have the money to pay for it, then you're going to have a constrained market. Or you find a way to roll everything back and get the costs down and make the dollar have more value, not less, year by year. And roll back the 2% inflation you do get, more than that really, and start gaining on that with some kind of wealth creation from a space economy or fossil fuels, or some way to enrich and infuse our marketplace with a lot of wealth. That's really the only way you can get there. But the pyramid scheme of buying up land, empty land, putting houses on it, selling all those half-acre, quarter-acre plots for $250,000, $350,000, $400,000 isn't going to work like it used to. And I think it's not going to work very far into this next decade because everybody's tapped out. There's just not enough people out there that make that level of income, especially if even in a dual income family. And even that's being questioned now. People don't want to work. Both parties don't want to work. And if you haven't paid attention to the next generation of youth, I saw the beer commercials or beer sales are way down, because a lot of young people under 18 now are turning away from those reckless lifestyles. They've learned from watching all the adults live bad lives, and they're not out there smoking as much. They're not out there drinking as much, and they're really not all that interested in sex even, because they've heard the Democrats, just like the pricing on housing, the Democrats have saturated everybody, and the best rebellion is to be good. That's the new rebellion. Not to play the game, get a smaller house, maybe become more conservative out of the gate, because who wants to turn into one of those losers you see on those No Kings protests? I think a lot more young people are turning away from that life in droves. They're not drinking, they're not smoking as much, and they don't want to be like their dumb parents. And the dumb parents are done paying taxes. They're ready to cash out and go buy a condo. So who's going to buy those houses? Taxes have consequences, and we're seeing them. And Vivek Ramaswamy is the best path to rolling that back, but he's not going back on his word. He's just building, for when he is in office, he's building people to get behind him so they can get some legislation done to roll back taxes and take the relief off people, because they need it in a big way. Anyway, it's Rich Hoffman here. Share, subscribe, make tomorrow a better day. If you ever read my book, The Gunfighter's Guide to Business, I think you'll love it. Anyway, have a good day. See you later.
Thank you for listening.